Hey everybody, welcome back to Real Ripe and Real Rotten, the podcast where we're taking a look at the highs and lows of your favorite Hollywood artists. Each month we're going to be looking at Rotten Tomatoes to determine the best and the worst film in one individual's filmography. You can listen along, let us know what you think about the best and worst of these people. We talked about Ridley Scott, we did Alien a little while ago, and now we're covering Ridley Scott's worst film, which is the 25% critical rating on Rotten Tomatoes for A Good Year, which came out in 2006. Stars Russell Crowe as a British investment broker who inherits his uncle's chateau and vineyard in Provence. I assume that's how you pronounce it. It's not Provence, where he spent much of his childhood. He discovers a new laid-back lifestyle as he tries to renovate the estate to be sold. Clay, I'm Wes, by the way. This is Clay. Clay, how are you?
I think I have to quit this podcast.
We were so new here, but I've actually had quite an eye-opening experience about all the potential for bad movies that exist in the world.
I don't know if the highs are worth the lows.
I mean, I thought it would be...
We're going through a fucking gauntlet here.
I thought it would be more along the lines of, we talked about, like, I was looking at Stanley Kubrick, right? And I was like, a great director has like a 99 for a high and a 73 for a low. Yeah. I thought that if you were a capable director, I wouldn't expect that you would have such a variance here. I'm surprised that, you know, he's much older at this point. Maybe Ridley Scott isn't quite the youthful filmmaker he used to be. This came out in 2006. I would have thought that everyone involved in this movie would have known better than what was going on here. It's odd.
I can't explain the existence of this movie. Like I looked it up a little bit, and it's based on a book, but the idea for the book came from Ridley Scott.
Yeah, Ridley Scott's friend wrote the book.
Yeah, but then so Ridley Scott came up with the idea for the book. His friend wrote the book. But Ridley Scott didn't like the way he took the story in the book, so he just made the story that he thought of initially.
Yeah.
And so this is more or less written and directed by Ridley Scott.
They said they added conflict. The book did not have conflict, so I can't imagine what the fuck was going on in the book.
Yeah. What conflict did they add?
So, yeah, I'll give you a little bit of information about this movie. There's not a tremendous amount. It's everything that Clay described. Ridley Scott apparently owns a house in this area, and one of the things that he was talking about is one of the best parts of making it was everything was like an 8-minute drive from his house when he had to go shoot the film. So he loves the area. Clearly, he lives there. He brought Russell Crowe in and everything like that. It's sort of a hodgepodge production. Writer Mark Klein took this book and he had the idea of Albert Finney was going to be a ghost in it, but Ridley Scott didn't like that, so they just do these flashbacks. It was shot in 9 weeks in 2005. They filmed all over France. It's supposed to be southern France. A lot of the feedback that Ridley Scott seemed to have was about the production design. Like, for instance, he wanted a clay tennis court, and they don't have clay tennis courts in that part of the world because of the climate, so they made one for them.
Huh, that's interesting.
And so it's just kind of weird stuff like that. There's not a lot of information on it. I don't know.
This movie cost $35 million to make?
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Holy shit.
It's got to be Ridley Scott, Russell Crowe's salaries, and then maybe the location, or wherever they were shooting might have taken up a decent amount.
The only thing that I could think of as I was thinking about it right now was like, oh, this has just got to be like a low-budget, passion project or something. $35 million.
Yep.
Disaster Artist cost $10 million to make.
So let's talk about A Good Year, which is not a good movie.
More like a good 10 minutes before I wanted to hang myself.
It's a 2-hour movie.
You all thought I was going to say A Bad Year, didn't you?
It is a romantic comedy that is fairly unique because it has no comedy in it whatsoever, and it has maybe 10 minutes of romance at the very end. My big takeaway on a story level is how aimless everything is that happens in this movie, and to me the big problem here is there's 3 different things going on, and none of them are lining up with each other. Like, it's based on this book that apparently has no conflict.
Yep.
Ridley Scott, his direction is interesting, but the Ridley Scott movie seems to be that he thought this was going to be kind of a whimsical, almost fantasy-like movie, because the way that he shoots British landscapes against the sort of like fantasy land of France is night and day. Like, the color correction is totally different between them. And the amount of light he shoots in France, like everything is very fairy tale looking. It seems like he wants almost more of like a Big Fish type story going on here. Mm-hmm. And Russell Crowe is just like, you know what? I'm going to do fucking slapstick for 2 hours here.
Oh, God.
And
he thinks he's fucking Charlie Chaplin in this movie.
And so Russell Crowe comes in, and I think that the script, if you play it straighter, is more of like a indie mumblecore kind of thing. Like it's a very low-key, not overtly funny type thing. But Russell Crowe comes in and just is like, this is how people do comedy. Follow my lead, gentlemen. I'll lead you to victory.
Max, are you back in Blighty?
On the contrary, Chuckles. I've decided to stick around for a couple of days.
So it's true, you are getting the sack?
No, I'm not getting the sack, Charlie. I'm just exploring my options with a view to realizing the full potential of my inheritance.
Well, speaking of your inheritance, how soon before we can view?
It's cosmetic stuff, mostly, I'd say. Surprising, actually, how well it's been maintained.
So you don't need a contractor or anything like that?
Oh, no. Just needs a coat of paint and a bit of a scrub.
Okay, you sure?
No problem at all, Charlie.
Good.
Charlie? Charlie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Look, I wasn't joking before about what I said about the wine they make here. It is not, I repeat, not first class. Will that affect our price?
Well, how bad can it be?
Well, it gives you a blinding headache and it makes you angry.
Oh.
I can't imagine the damage a second sip might do.
Well, we just have to make sure our buyers don't know anything about wine. We'll concentrate on the Americans.
This is the best looking Hallmark original movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's like it's the exact same. The only thing separating this from a movie you would see on the Hallmark Channel is the fact that it looks like $1 million.
Yep.
And it does. But at the same time, I feel like Ridley Scott he feels like he's just trying some shit out in this movie. Like there's some weird like fast motion stuff that he does that he's never done in anything before. And some weird like visual effects stuff that he's never done in anything before. There's one scene of the like pesticide truck spraying the grapes where it's like everything's orange but the pesticide is blue.
Yep.
That just looks like a complete color correction fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
That it looked like he just did it to see what would happen. And
Good new software.
Like the only thing that I can wrap my mind around this movie existing is like it seemed to be maybe it was Ridley Scott going for like the like you were saying, the whimsical French farce movie from like the 50s.
Yeah.
That I'm sure he really liked. Like his first film he ever made as a kid was like this black and white movie about riding a bicycle or something like that. And it was the same kind of feel where it's like it's very much a slice of life kind of thing. And like the only thing I can think of is that he was going for that kind of feel. And it's not good. I think this movie gets a little bit better if you cast literally anybody else as the main guy.
No, if Russell Crowe might be the single biggest problem with this movie, and it's shocking.
Yeah.
Amy was watching it with me, and she said, I don't know how Ridley Scott did it, but he made Russell Crowe unattractive to me on something. Like he's if you watch this, the amount of scenes where he's eating something, he's got fucking shit all over his chest, and he's like dribbling tomato all over himself, and it's like his character makes no sense to me throughout the entire movie. Like he's this high-powered day trader who opens the movie, super competent. The minute you get him to France and you rent him a small car, he becomes like a bumbling buffoon who can't do anything. And then when he goes out on a date in the last 20 minutes, he becomes Russell Crowe again.
Yeah.
And everything works out for him. And then that's the end of the movie. He's so bizarre. The only thing that I thought, if I had to break this movie down, it's about 35% Russell Crowe doing pratfalls and like terrible comedy stuff. It's about 17% shots of car driving back and forth on the same like standing still camera shot over and over, like when he leaves the car rental place, which is funny to me for some reason. Then when he's driving down the French roads, and then the rest of it are these. Russell Crowe has like what I assume to be psychotic breaks where he fantasizes about something that happened 30 years ago and has little to no impact on how the story works out at the very end, where he gets this estate from his uncle. He just kind of walks into it because he's the only living relative, and all these people show up. Yeah, go ahead.
You're forgetting the heart and soul of this movie, which is just a big fucking sloppy wet blowjob to the concept of wine, which there's nothing I hate more than fucking wine movies. I hate them.
I mean,
hate them.
I feel this movie doesn't even tie into the wine. Like what goes on here has nothing to do with. Even me and Amy were trying to think of why it's called a good year. Like, which year is the good year? Is this the good year, or are the flashbacks?
I don't know.
It's just a wine reference.
Even the wine thing at the end, I don't. So is the idea that the whole time that he was making bad wine on purpose because they really make good wine?
Yeah. Well, why? Here's my fundamental, like the thing. Russell Crowe comes over, right, and he inherits this vineyard in France. He goes there, and he's calling his real estate buddy or whatever on the phone. He's like, look at this place. Falling apart. The wine is terrible. Everything's bad here. Why is he upset? It's not like he bought this place and it's devalued because the wine is terrible. Like, he got it for free, and he's going to sell it for $10 million no matter what happens because it's a vineyard in fucking southern France, and it looks beautiful. So I don't know why he's freaking out about it.
This feels like... it feels like a movie about where your rich playboy gets cut down to size and learns how to reclaim
his soul,
his soul and a much simpler life. But it's made by someone who hasn't had a simpler life like that in 50 years, which is exactly who Ridley Scott is.
I think
Ridley Scott has been rich and famous for a long time.
I think that it totally sums up that attitude where at the very end, right, Russell Crowe meets his boss, and his boss is like, "You fucking asshole! You cost me so much money. I'm gonna give you a deal to make or break you.
Oh my
you can
God,
you can either take millions of dollars or you can become a partner in my business."
Yeah.
And that's the devil's choice.
Like this, what's the fucking choice there? It's like, okay, I'll take the money and never work again for the rest of my life.
It made no sense. It's so stupid. The guy is totally giving him that choice as if he is giving Russell Crowe the hard place, or like you come with me and you sell your soul, or you get nothing out of this. And instead he gets everything that he wants out of it. Yeah,
and like everything just works out so perfectly. Like at the end, right, when he forges that note.
Yep.
At first I was like, "Oh, that's fucked up." I thought he was doing it specifically to like give the daughter some closure about stuff, and it didn't occur to me that, oh wait, he's doing that so it voids the sale, so the place goes to her.
Yes.
When I was like, that's such a hackneyed, convenient way to solve that problem.
And did you pick up the fact that as a kid he was signing his uncle's names for his check?
Yeah,
so he knows how to
because now he knows how to write full paragraphs in his uncle's handwriting because he used to copy his signature.
Yep.
Oh my God.
I think that
this might be worse than Christmas Eve.
I was thinking about that, and I think that this movie is worse in a dishonest way, where Christmas Eve just was like, I'm a garbage movie. Here, you should watch my garbage movie. This feels also very ugly. I don't know if it's just the time that we're living in where this is hypersensitive. Every chance that this movie gets for no reason to either look at tits or ass on women, it grabs it full throttle and is like, we are going to look at ass.
I was wondering if that was like the old French film kind of vibe, because I'm sure I never really watch a lot of them, but I'm sure that
the buxom
element
ladies
that element of sex is probably very prevalent in those movies, I assume.
But they don't make jokes out of it here. It's really just when like the sunburn one, the girl gets the sunburn, she's like, "Can you check out my back?"
Yeah,
and the
that was weird.
Guy just lifts up the sheet and looks at her ass, and her ass is just in the camera for a couple seconds.
And then what's her name shows her butt to the entire restaurant, and
and then when they're about to have sex, the only thing you see is Russell Crowe lifts the skirt up over her ass, and so you get a nice butt cheek in your face, and then that's it. Yep.
Yeah. I've never been a day trader. I've never worked in the stock market.
You never had lab rats operating?
I've never had lab rats, but I am I'm going to say 98% sure that their understanding of how the stock market works is wrong.
Well, it's basically the Bane
It was
plot
like-
in Batman, right? Where they flush everything down and Bane can type in a couple things on the computer and they can't fix it.
It was like a 10-year-old's understanding of how the stock market works, where it's like everything's open and then the thing is going up on the thing, and then he's like, "Wait, sell," and then the thing starts going down, and everyone's freaking out. Like,
the guy from
I mean, and why? There's this whole subplot about him being suspended and his thing being under investigation, but like, why?
makes no sense. Did he do anything wrong?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, and the movie doesn't seem to be.
Let's put it this way. I've never been a day trader.
But then
I don't have any understanding about the stock market, but I don't think he did anything wrong.
at the end of the episode, his assistant, right, who had been helping him earlier on, and Russell Crowe has a revelation he wants to live in France. He sets up that assistant to get fired for some reason.
Yes. Oh, Russell Crowe does not change as a character at all in this movie.
No, he's exactly
There's
the
no
same
point.
egotistical asshole. He wouldn't.
That's
I could understand if that guy was trying to usurp him or something, but you get no implication that that's happening. He doesn't try to save his job at the very end.
His assistant kind of implies it.
Implies
Implies that this guy is kind of coming for him.
Okay.
Because she says that he was taking credit for the big sale that he did at First Point.
Oh,
and then he was,
he's not around and
since
he's
been
sneaking in there. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she makes reference to how it's the same thing Russell Crowe did to his boss or something like that.
It's very
But
Seth.
even so, it's like was never malicious about it. It's not like he was the other guy, the other stock guy that they show, who was basically like the Shredder,
Right.
from Ninja Turtles, where he was like, Russell Crowe.
Yeah, it's just he just sets him up, and then when he's leaving, he's like, "Yep, jolly good, fuck yourself." Off I go up the escalator, and the guy, just this young kid, loses his job. Apparently, it didn't make any sense. He just wasn't his enemy during the entire thing. So why did he do that to him? It felt unnecessary.
Yeah, I don't know. This movie is baffling.
It's very interesting. Russell Crowe, doesn't. I guess we can talk about the Russell Crowe character and how little he actually changes through all this. So the basic plot, if you haven't seen the movie and if you're listening to this or if you just need a refresher, is that he's a day trader. He comes into ownership of his house in France. He moves out there. He meets the wacky people who worked on the farm, work on the vineyard. He sort of befriends them. His uncle's long-lost daughter makes an appearance, and she is a competition for his inheritance because it would go to her because she's a direct heir as opposed to he's a nephew or something.
He asks, which leads to a scene where he asks his assistant or possibly his friend, I can't remember which one, how frowned upon cousin incest is in France.
It was the highlight of the movie to me, actually.
Yeah.
I wrote that. Is it illegal to fuck your cousin in France? He asked over the other cell phone.
And then the woman is like, no, it's fine.
Yeah. What was? Well, we'll get to that. I mean, I guess the fact that it's a romantic comedy, really, I do want to break down how much of a failure of a romantic comedy this is, because the big failure to me is either the creative staff did not get on the same page about what they wanted to do, or they're just the least funny people potentially working in Hollywood at this point.
I think it's Russell Crowe's fault entirely.
I listened to, I think it was the How Did This Get Made, and they talked about Virtuosity, which stars Russell Crowe.
Yes.
And I guess the common, not the rumor, but the sort of perception of Russell Crowe is that Russell Crowe in real life thinks that he's hysterical.
Yes.
He worked on SNL and was one of the hosting nightmares where the host wants to get involved in the writing process, but all their ideas are terrible. He has dinners where people will go with him, and he'll just like point blank you to tell him a joke in the dinner. And, he's like telling comedians to tell him a joke, and he's either laughing or not laughing, and then he's telling terrible jokes. So he has a very bad sense of humor, obviously. But the fact that so much of the comedy just comes from a place of people not understanding where humor comes from. Like the car thing is perfect to me. His assistant just, wacky assistant gives him a tiny car. He's driving a tiny car around. It's tiny. It's fucking tiny. It'll go zip zap in the other way and everything. And he drives that car around as if he is having a seizure. When the car, like the camera will occasionally go to his POV as he's driving around, and he's screaming into his phone. He's running people over over on the roads. He is
his GPS has 6 different kinds of French or something. Yeah. I couldn't really figure out that thing.
And when he drives past his thing, instead of doing the thing that the GPS does in real life, where it turns off and says you've arrived, it says go back. You missed the driveway. Yeah, it's just it's the sense of. It's paint by numbers comedy. It's someone who doesn't really understand what's funny about this, but they know that giving him a funny car should be funny in a comedy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work on any level whatsoever. The only reason it made me laugh is the scene where he's leaving the dealership and he drives back and forth for no reason and then beeps, and the horn is very funny. It's like beep beep. That's the only thing that made me laugh. And other than that, it does. You were talking about the sped up shot. It's a Benny Hill sequence. He drives around the rotary 5 times and then takes off in another direction.
Yeah, I love Ridley Scott. I think he's, I was talking to Jim, our buddy Jim, about this. Excuse me, and we were trying to. I mentioned this movie.
Does he know this movie?
No.
Okay.
But I was talking about we were doing Ridley Scott, and I was saying how I was surprised it was this movie. I'm not surprised anymore. But as I thought about it, we were both kind of thinking like, yeah, he doesn't really have a lot of stinkers. He's kind of pretty much a solid bet for the most part. It's usually 60 or above if you were going to put a grade on it. The only other one I could think of was like maybe that Exodus movie.
Yeah.
Which I haven't seen. I actually heard it wasn't that bad, but.
Does he have another comedy in his?
No, that's what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
This is the only comedy he's made, and I love him as a filmmaker, but I don't think he's watched a comedy in 55 years.
Right, yeah. He's
like, again, this feels like a movie that he would have seen when he was growing up.
Yes.
He's not a comedy director. It's not in his wheelhouse.
I was actually Well, let me.
No, I'm done.
Well, sorry, yeah, but I was thinking that when you do to me, let's see how I want to phrase this. The direction here is very nice. He gets very nice. Like he's obviously a very good director. He's capable of getting these shots. He doesn't really get the performance that he needs to out of Russell Crowe, but that might be Russell Crowe. The thing to me, comedies. When I think of movie comedies, restraint is how I would describe the direction of a comedy.
Yeah.
Like you need to, it's not named directors who do this. It's not like visual artists. It is it's more important for directors to have a sense of what is funny than to make it look good on some level.
And if you do have a comedy that has like a visual,
flair.
Visual flair, director attached to it, usually he kind of he gets out of the way of the people who are, usually, we were talking about Alien and how Alien works so well because Ridley Scott cast the hell out of it and cast people who knew what they were doing and confident enough in it that he could just kind of be left alone to leave them alone and focus on the visuals. He did not do that with this movie.
No.
He should have cast this movie much better than he did.
Yeah. Yes, and I think that if you're going for the whimsical thing, there's a lot of scenes of people just walking through the vineyard and he's shooting the vineyard. He obviously loves this kind of culture because he shoots the hell out of this house, which is spectacular. And it's a lot of scenes of Russell Crowe looking into the camera as he's walking through the areas. It's very whimsical. It's very much in that vein. And if you want to adapt it to Russell Crowe's kind of comedy here, it would still be a terrible movie. But it would be much less of this camera moving around and much more of the getting to the interactions there. So they kind of middle of the road. The script isn't strong enough to be a comedy standing on its own, but the performances are killing the kind of directorial tone that Ridley Scott is going for.
Yeah, like overall, the idea of, he's basically coming back to this place and being overwhelmed by the nostalgia of it.
Yep.
And that in and of itself, I think is actually executed pretty well. The flashbacks he's having of interacting with his uncle and all that kind of stuff, I think that stuff actually works. Until you get to the end and it's the girl was at his house and kissed him. Yeah. That was stupid. But the more subtle kind of heartfelt stuff, I think, isn't a failure.
No.
The stuff that's more performance-based is just a train wreck.
Well, I would say that I don't really understand the relationship between Russell Crowe and Albert Finney, who plays his uncle, because
no, me neither. Yeah,
you get the sense through the flashbacks that they actually love each other, but he doesn't like him enough to actually write it into his will to give him the thing, because he's like, he turned into a terrible person, so I'm not going to give it to him.
And like I thought, so the way that he was talking about his uncle before like the story started rolling, it's like he was talking about him with such like dismissal and discontent and contempt.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so I assumed it was like, oh, that stuff at the beginning, maybe that was like the last summer he spent there. But it's like, no, I haven't talked to him in 10 years. It's like, so wait, you were 20, how old is he? 40, he's probably about 45 in that movie.
Yeah, it says 25 years later after this. So,
yeah. So he's like 30, mid-30s when this is taking place. So he was a fully formed adult the last time that he spoke to his uncle.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just a very strange, like,
we
the
get a
way that
flashback
he's
of that degrading relationship.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no indication of how or why he turned on him.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even think he talks about him, you know, drinking and screwing his life away, excuse me, in a negative manner. But we're never really told that that's what caused the turn. Like he never expresses that he had a change of heart towards his uncle's lifestyle or anything like that.
Yeah, and then I guess you could argue at the very end he even sort of betrays him in a way, because his uncle deliberately didn't write the will for that to sort of to give it to the daughter, and it ends up going to the daughter, but only because Russell Crowe forges the letter from him to sort of cause it to happen. So there's a great amount of disrespect, I guess, going towards the uncle throughout the entire thing. And
also, he only decides to do that after he finds out that the wine is really good.
Yep. Would up the sale price by a good $1 million or something like that. Yeah. I really couldn't get over the fact that they were so concerned that the place was run down. It's like this beautiful mansion with a vineyard that maybe doesn't produce great wine, but whatever.
Also, he's like, I got to fix this place up before we sell it in 72 hours. It's like the pool literally has ankle deep cow shit in it, and he's like, well, I got 72 hours to turn this place into an immaculate palace.
I think that was also when he starts painting the hallway, that was probably method Russell Crowe, because I was like, Russell, you got to sand that shit down before you just start lathering paint over it. You can't just paint a crumbling paint. But yeah, he didn't do any of that. Yeah, so a good portion of the movie is him trying to fix up the place, which I didn't actually realize until I read the description of the movie afterwards. I thought he was just killing time, but he's trying to improve the sale price of the property. And we can talk about the workers on the farm, who are the Duflos, I think, someplace Dufflos. I don't understand what's going on between Russell Crowe and the wife, if there is anything going on.
She's just a sassy French lady who's all about, like, you know, shaking her tits at people.
And Russell Crowe.
That's my understanding of French women.
And their husband is the guy who, probably the character that makes the most sense here, where he's the one who's worked on the vineyard for the whole entire amount of time, and he's upset that the house is going to get sold and he's going to lose his job and everything like that.
Also a rundown French stereotype as well.
Yes, actually, Kyle, faithful listener Kyle, tweeted at me, said he's never seen a more racist movie. And that was before I've watched it. I don't know if Kyle means racist towards the French. I thought it was actually more sexist than racist. I was kind of watching. He had primed me to sort of watch waiting for the racism to pop out, and I was a little bit surprised that it didn't come out that way.
I didn't. I don't know. I feel like some of that stuff is a little bit subjective, because I mean, well, Russell Crowe is not exactly a paragon of
virtue.
Yeah.
So he's also not American in the movie, which I think matters on some level.
Right.
Right. That's why the car thing struck me as weird, because it's not the cliche American goes over to Europe and gets stuck with a tiny car. You know, he is a European. He's familiar with small cars. over there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But they still do the thing where he gets in the wrong side of the car.
Oh, that's. Does France have it on the other side from?
I guess France is on the other side than England, so it's on the American side.
Okay, all right, yeah. Well, at least it taught us one thing about this, the world.
Yeah.
But the French family, and then we meet the daughter who comes in. Who the daughter? Yeah, just all those characters culminating in their dinner scene with each other, where Russell Crowe loses his mind and starts accusing her. I don't know. Like, none of the character work in the movie works on any kind of level. Like,
in that scene in particular, I felt really bad because I felt like his acting had shades of drunk Patrick McGowan when Patrick McGowan plays drunk.
Yeah.
He had that same sort of, like, his voice kind of went up a little bit,
yeah.
and as he was being accusatory, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Very smart.
That daughter character was just like a waste of space.
Really?
Man. What is she? She just shows up and just like gets hit on by old dudes and her cousin, and then like
the friend
gets
who
sunburned.
shows up at the last day.
Yeah, gets a unintentionally sexy sunburn, and I don't know. It was again. I didn't think she was particularly good. I think maybe. I would like to say maybe a better actress could have done something more with it, but she didn't really have a lot to work with.
Well,
so.
I mean, when she's leaving at the very end and she's about to catch the bus or whatever to go back home, and Russell Crowe drives up to her, it felt so out of place to me. I was like, this character doesn't care about her. Why is he driving over to get her? They haven't spent any time together in this entire thing, and she exists in a weird plot point of the movie where just her existence is enough for the character, and she adds nothing else to the movie. Like, there's just the fact that she exists and Russell Crowe can't kill her to get the estate is the only reason that she's around at this point, because her characterization doesn't work, and Russell Crowe can't fall in love with her or anything because she's his cousin.
And she's not after the place. It's not like she's trying to get the place.
Right, she's more interested in the wine.
Yeah. she is only a conflict because Russell Crowe thinks she's a conflict.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, at no point is she like, I'm here to reclaim my birthright or whatever. Or she's just like, no, I just want to find out who my dad was. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, right.
But Russell Crowe is like, she could be coming for my throne that I only just now learned that I had.
It's only worth $3 million. I can get it up to $4 million.
If I paint this throne, maybe I can get another $25.
And it's another aspect of, I thought, was he's pitched as a wildly successful day trader, right? He's got like all these underlings working under him. I don't know if lab rats is the right word for what their role is to him, but he's plays very highfalutin. Yet somehow he is not the head honcho at his own firm, which I thought was interesting. He's not even a partner yet at that point.
Right. Yeah. Well, so you gotta get that devil's bargain at the end there.
I think that let's talk about the romance, which is oddly tacked on, where he meets the actress is Marion Cotillard, and
I thought she was good. I've rarely seen her in something where I didn't enjoy her.
Yeah, I think this is a very early performance for her, but she is very good. And it's funny to me that the romance really only exists in the last 20 minutes of the movie on some level. Like, he doesn't even crashing into her in his car doesn't spark the relationship.
Yeah,
at that point.
because he doesn't even see it happen.
Yeah, he just drives off, and she finds him later and yells at him, and then she is portrayed as getting over a rough relationship or something, so she doesn't want to date. And then Russell Crowe's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm Russell Crowe," and she falls in love with him. And over the course of this movie, up until the point where he declares his love for her at the very end and they live together, they go on one date with each other.
Yep.
One date.
Yep.
One date, and that's it. That's the only...
That's all you need, man. When you know.
That's all the interaction that they have with each other. And it's so
well,
weird.
he steps in and uses his college waiter training to
save the day.
Effortlessly work his way through this restaurant system that he's never even encountered before.
And yeah, they fall in love, and that's it at the end. There's really the only conflict is whether or not, it's not even that he can get her to sleep with her. It's just like she doesn't want to be in a relationship, and Russell Crowe just has to fight through that. And that's the entire conflict.
Yeah, she goes out of her way to be like, I have to tell you, I'm awful. I don't like people. I'm very bossy. I'm very jealous. I'm kind of a bitch. I'm going to tell you that right up front. And he's like, yeah, I'm down.
All right, love. I'm just, that's whatever we need. Yeah, it's just,
I am also a jerk.
Fighting around the world, the South Park thing, so I think. Yeah, I don't know. Do we have any other big arching thoughts about this? Let me see. I'm looking at my notes here. I don't think I had too many.
Man, didn't you love that scorpions gag? Worked every time.
Every single time. Is the lavender supposed to keep away the scorpions? Is that what's...
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of scorpions apparently in France, and anytime you can get Russell Crowe jumping up on the bed, it's
hilarious.
Something you should do. So, what
that scene where the friend ices down the girl's back?
Yep.
Was so odd. Because there's no relationship there.
No,
it's not even like the stuff.
It's inviting a stranger into your house
to
rub
it
ice
was
on
like,
your naked body.
The way that it played was like the guy was in the scene, but the girl refused to act. Where she was just like, no, I think this scene is bullshit, so I'm not even going to act like I'm, it's flirty or something. You can shoot it however you want, but I'm going to act like this is ridiculous.
Yeah. He's Chris. I have to mention the, I do think that whole sequence is absurd until you realize that Russell Crowe goes on one date in the movie. Like the fact that when that Chris guy leaves, he's like, baby, I've never felt this way about anyone. She just goes off and does whatever. But we talked about how the comedy feels like someone who's never heard a joke before. It feels like aliens are at the romance aspect of it because no one's romance makes any sense. And
yeah, it's romance level on par with like The Room,
and
basically.
I think I remember what Kai was talking about. The movie ends with an out of nowhere racist joke about black guys being rappers at the very end.
Oh yeah. That? Oh shit! What was that? Like, what was the punchline to that joke?
So, if you don't know, I'll break down the joke where his assistant is going to stay in his house for some reason, and for some reason she's having a meeting with a rapper, and so she goes down and she's like, "There's two guys. There's a well-dressed, dapper sort of white guy. I think he's white, or he's certainly not a black guy. And then there's a black guy who's got the whole hip hop thing going on, dressed to the T." And so she goes and she walks over to the black guy and she's like, "Oh, you're the rapper." And the guy says, "No, I'm the manager." And then he points at the other guy who's this well-dressed, like dapper gentleman. He says he's the rapper. And then
they cut back to the girl. It's like wah wah.
just a little bit of racism there, although it's a deceptive joke setup. But I don't think that was hinted at in the entire movie that she was going to have that meeting or anything. And it's totally out of left field.
And it's not like a character thing for her.
No,
like
to be sort of confused about people or something like that.
Yeah, it was very, very strange. I don't know where that came from. That's it. Again, that seemed like the kind of joke a 70-year-old man would find funny.
Yes,
It's like, man, you can't even tell which ones are the rappers anymore.
Yeah, you can't.
Right?
Yeah, what's the Arrested Development joke? You get them down to nothing, and it's hard to tell which is the boy or girl when she's talking about. What's that character's name?
Oh, shit.
Me. Oh, goddamn, their adoptive son.
Tobias.
No, sorry. The
George Michael.
No, the Asian kid.
Oh, Anyang.
Anyang, that's right.
Yeah.
That's Anyang. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much how the movie ends right there, and it smash cuts to Ridley Scott directed and produced the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're done. We've covered pretty much everything of it. I think it's a truly terrible movie. It's one of those movies where we watch Christmas Eve and I look at Rotten Tomatoes and I'm like, all right, 15 reviews, all negative. That makes sense. Where did the 25% positive reviews come from? And one of them I tweeted out about it was like a review for parents for teen movies. So they review things as though teen appropriate, and everything they thought things were a little bit too sexy and there was some wine involved, but otherwise your teen would be able to enjoy this movie. So
sure. The one thing Jim was saying was he was wondering if we were using the critic score or the audience score, and he seemed to think that the audience score might be a better barometer because the critics, there's such a wide discrepancy nowadays.
Yep. Do you know what the critical score is on Rotten Tomatoes for this movie?
I don't. You said it's 25, right?
That's the critic score. Oh, sorry, do you know what the audience score is?
No, I don't.
I believe it's 52, but let me look.
Well, yeah, because I was going to say, he said, well, what about IMDb? And I said, IMDb is even more difficult because that shit doesn't make any sense anymore. And I checked the IMDb score in this movie is like 7.5.
I think there's been something going on. Sorry, it's audience score of 65%. So continue what you think.
The IMDb score, I don't know where that shit comes from anymore. Like, so I don't know if it's the number of people who are doing it or people are just like,
it's Ridley Scott, therefore I like him or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Like this movie, 7.7s are usually on IMDb. You can bump it up a couple. You can bump it up a couple points. So if it's like a 6, it's usually pretty good. But if it's a 7, it's usually a solid movie.
This on Amazon, this has 1,063 reviews. It's at 4.5 out of 5 stars.
What the fuck?
There's some sort of brigading thing going on here because there's no.
I'm telling you, this feels like a Hallmark Channel movie.
Yeah.
The audience of Hallmark Channel movies are writing reviews and star ratings for this
Let me
movie.
read what okay, so here's the top rated review on Amazon.
Not to dip too close intellectual property-wise to how did this get made.
Yeah, this is what they used to do. But I need to know for this one because this one feels skewed to me. This was not the case for Christmas Eve. It did not have good reviews. It's 5 out of 5. A great good romantic comedy. Watch this movie, even though I'm not a fan, except for Gladiators, of Russell Crowe, because a friend recommended it. Well, was I surprised. Both the movie and Mr. Crowe's performance are simply delightful. Such a feel-good movie that I just had to own a copy.
Oof.
Yep. And
sure.
They're all highly related. I don't really. Something must be going on. There must be some company involved in the sales of this that they've just sort of spammed out these reviews because it is not a good movie. It doesn't deserve these ratings.
So I'll give you one from IMDb. This is 9 out of 10 stars. As a longtime fan of Russell Crowe, I do know that he can be funny, charming, sweet, and romantic, not only on film, but in real life. This was written by Russell Crowe. His recent appearances on the TV promotional circuit have proved this once again. Those who only know his films since L.A. Confidential, for the most part, focus on his ability to capture and project power, strength, and inner turmoil. This is 100% written by him. Those who have seen his films such as Proof, For the Moment, Love in Limbo, and The Sum of Us have seen his ability to show gentler, funnier, and often more uncertain sides of the human experience. I would also argue that these are readily seen in his films such as The Insider, A Beautiful Mind, and Cinderella Man. A Good Year is a wonderful return to the Russell of those earlier films. Like a Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movie, you know just where it's likely going to take you, but with such lovely, engaging people in such a wonderful setting, you just want to enjoy the trip. And so you shall. What a refreshing change from the overheated, oversexed, overspecial effected, in quotes, and over-bloodied fare that Hollywood usually dishes out. Thank you so much, Mr. Crowe and Mr. Scott, for my little vacation in the south of France. 9 stars.
I want to stress, if you haven't seen this, watch the first 20 minutes. If Russell Crowe should have been serious contender for worst actor, like a Razzie, this year, because he is horrible in this. In Christmas Eve, no one is this bad of a performance. The movie sucks and the characters suck in that movie, but this performance is sinking the ship the entire way.
He has Sylvester Stallone comedy disease in this movie.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what that is, that's where, for some reason, Sylvester Stallone, when he plays comedy parts, needs you to know that he knows that he's playing a comedy part.
Yeah, he's not being serious. This is not him. He's acting.
Yeah.
He wants you to know that he's acting, yeah.
Like Tango and Cash or like Judge Dredd or something like that or any of the Stop and My Mom Will Shoot. He has to make sure that you know that he's in on the joke. And that's how I feel Russell Crowe is in this movie, where he's like, it's not Russell Crowe playing comedy. It's Russell Crowe going, this is me playing comedy.
Do you know the reason why I spent the night with you? It is because once you have done what you came here to do, you will not return. For us, there can be no future. There is safety in that.
Well, there is absolutely nothing stopping us from setting up your cafe in Notting Hill. London definitely needs a decent bistro.
How typical. To assume that I live in Provence because I have no choice.
Fanny, this place just doesn't suit my life.
No, Max. It is your life that doesn't suit this place.
Yeah, he's honestly the worst part of it. I know that the focus of this is Ridley Scott. I think that it's competently directed, except it feels like he got overpowered by the acting at this point. Like, he had no way to fix it. Like, I still think the script is bad.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's a bad
terrible.
script, but it's
awful.
Honestly, what you said earlier was what we were talking about it last night. It's just, if you replaced Russell Crowe with anybody, it would have been a better movie from it.
Yeah.
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 Which is weird to say about Russell Crowe. It's also weird that this movie is 12 years old at this point.
Yeah. Like this could be a movie where if you have the right cast, the goofy stuff makes up for the lack of plot.
Yes.
Like the comedy would be, funny and engaging enough or strong enough that you don't really care, that it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, or just not aggressively bad. Just like if it's a gentle comedy, you might just be like, yeah, whatever. This is not particularly good, but it washes over you. But it's so distracting in this one that it knocks it down.
Hallmark Channel, man.
Hallmark Channel. I wonder if this has ever actually aired on that. I think I'm done. Yeah, I looked at all the reviews. That's about it. It's at 65% audience. Did Jim think that we should do the audience score? I think the audience score is a worse indicator of what the movie will be like.
Yeah, I think I understand why he was saying that. That was also based on we'll talk about Star Wars, how the critic score for Star Wars was so high,
Yes,
but the audience score was so low.
It's
which
the opposite for Discovery. Ironic, like the critic score is low, but the audience score is high for Discovery.
Yeah, I am aware that there recently in the past couple of years, people have been really like tanking scores in either direction.
Yeah, we're not saying this is a perfect system here. It's just
yeah. But I think the Rotten Tomatoes critic is probably the best way to go.
Yes, I think so. As long as those teen rating websites don't screw things up for us too far. But that's about it. We're done talking about this movie. This movie was too long, I guess.
Oh my God, it's so long. I took a break. I thought I took a break at the halfway point so we could go get dinner. I came back and started it up again, and I had only watched 35 minutes of it.
I think it's an hour and 57 minutes. It's a very, very long.
It feels like a fucking week.
Yep, it does. But that's it. A good year. So we liked Alien, which is a little surprise. We didn't like A Good Year.
Yeah.
I wonder.
What are we doing next?
We have Tom Cruise next, which is
Oh, right,
Cocktails and why can't I think of the other one? It's
Risky Business.
Risky Business is the high. So Cocktails at 5%.
There's no way 1980s Tom Cruise and Cocktail can be worse than this movie.
No, I'd have a. I don't think I've seen Cocktail, so I'll be interested.
I have not either.
To watch that and see if it could possibly be worse than this. But yeah, it's Tom Cruise will be next. We'll start it with the worst one to alternate it. So instead of going best to worst, we'll go worst to best. So we'll
after I watched this movie, I had to rewatch the last 25 minutes of Mother.
Yep.
Which is a fucking like a acid trip just to reset my equilibrium.
Yeah, just to get that palate cleanse in there, I guess, with the wine and everything would taste good.
If you haven't seen Mother, you should see it. It's really good. It's not for everybody, but it's really great.
So that's about it for A Good Year. We'll be moving on. Ridley Scott's done. We did Patrick Stewart. We'll be moving on to Tom Cruise. If you guys wonder how we decide this, it's voted on at patreon.com/the Pensky File. If you're a patron of the channel, you can support or you can vote for what you want to see. He narrowly beat out Natalie Portman by 2 votes, which is interesting.
That's an interesting choice. I what I heard.
The reason I heard from a few people was that if they were better Tom Cruise movies or movies that are more what people kind of expect from Tom Cruise, I guess, because they are both 80s comedy type movies.
Yeah, I guess I get. Excuse me. Sorry. I guess I was more curious about why Natalie Portman. I guess why not?
Yeah,
but
it's
I
just voting for Republican or Democrat. You have to vote for one, so you're going to vote for the one that you hate the least, I guess.
Well, did you choose Natalie Portman to put on the thing?
I have a list. People make suggestions. I use random.org every month to choose 2 random people, and I just pair them up together.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. It just seems like a very random choice, but not that
between
not
those
that
two.
she's,
You're talking about yes. I'd agree. I mean, yes, and I'm just it does feel random. There's no like thematic correlation between them, but I also don't want too much thematic correlation where it feels like you regret missing out on the other one if you like that kind of genre or something.
Also, is Natalie Portman's lowest rated movie Phantom Menace? Because I will not be watching that movie again.
It's a Planetarium or something like that. I'd never heard of it before.
All right, cool.
That's about it. A good year. It's terrible. It might be worse than Christmas Eve, even though it's at 25%. Christmas Eve is at 0.
Yeah, Christmas Eve at least is like a fascinating train wreck.
Yeah. Christmas Eve sort of realizes that it's schlock as well. It realizes that it kind of knows that it's bad and it just doesn't care about it.
Yeah, and it's not made by people who should know better,
right.
like you said.
Yeah. It's made by some no-name Mormon from Utah who directed his last movie 15 years before he came on to Christmas Eve.
Mitt Romney.
Yep. What was that guy's name? I can't remember. It's Mitch. His name is Mitch. So
Mitch Romney.
Mitch Romney. That's it. A good year. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, if you want to help decide what we talk about in the upcoming months, you go to patreon.com/the Pensky File. Support the show there. And that's about it. We'll be back with Tom Cruise's stuff. Any final words for a good year, Clay, before we sign off?
No, but if you happen to be in a comic book store after January 31st and you feel like picking up a copy of my book Red Line, I'd be much obliged. I'm going to be pitching this in every episode I'm on, so get used to it.
Yep. It's what is it now? It's January 15th or something. So we got a couple weeks till it comes out for Clay. And I don't think we have anything else on. Listen to Discovery. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you've listened to Discovery, you listened to DS9, blah, blah, blah. The best of DS9 episode, season 1 video went up. Let me know what you think about that. I think that's it. All right. So, and let us know about any feedback about this show that you think would be interesting to hear, or some criticism or positive feedback would be nice to know. I don't know if people like the amount of information I talk about the person before the episode, or if we should just get into the movie. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we move forward, but we'll be back with
You know what you should do?
Go ahead.
Think on it and have yourself a nice glass of red wine.
I've never had a
because wine as a concept is just, I don't know.
It's very deep. My brother-in-law sells wine, and he knows more about wine. I've never...
Just make him watch this movie.
Yeah, I should recommend it. I've never had wine so bad I spit it out. So maybe I'm doing wine wrong, I guess, at that point. I just don't know wine all that well. What do you think is more obnoxious, to be into wine or into craft brewing?
I think they are of the same... what's the word I'm looking for?
The same
milieu.
Yeah,
I guess.
Well, I relate it to skiers drink wine and snowboarders drink craft beer.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. No, I mean, being a wine snob is a high class activity.
Yes. Yeah.
Or at least creates the illusion of high class anyway. Craft being into craft beer is a little bit more hipstery.
Yes.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with either of those things, but just fucking keep it to yourself, man.
Yep.
Come on.
Yep.
You don't need to pay $35 million so you can explain to people how great you think wine is.
Right. And I'll just since it's something I can't scientifically prove, I can't prove your consistency with your view. Like if I were to lay out 5 different beers and have you blind test them and then come back a day later and taste them again and tell me which ones were which ones, mm-hmm. I'd have a hard time believing people can really do that all that particularly well. But maybe I'm being ungenerous with my...
Well, I mean, this is going way off track, but there is actually, you know how they have sommeliers for wine?
Yes.
There is a beer equivalent called the Cicerone, which it's a 4-level. I only know this because my cousin had to take the test for the job that he works at. There's 4 levels, and only 11 people in the world have ever made it to level 4.
Nice, absolutely. and it's like Scientology, only more of a good time.
Basically, yeah. He didn't quite go clear, but he's made it to OT3.
He's made it to fuzzy, hazy as some stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I don't think Russell Crowe's a Scientologist, is he? He seems like he might be. Tom Cruise certainly is. I don't think he is.
I don't think so.
No.
I think he's too angry for that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're done with Ridley Scott. We're moving on to Tom Cruise. Guys, thank you very much for listening. We will see you next time.